We have to talk about what the Charlotte Hornets are doing. I know it's only the preseason, but I'm still super high on this Charlotte Hornets team, as these are the 4 reasons why they're not only going to be much better than last season, but could actually be a playoff team as well. The first reason why the Hornets could be a playoff team this season is obviously because of LaMelo Ball. Over the 2 preseason games, LaMelo has been in mid-season form, putting up 18 points and 7 assists in only 19 minutes in game 1, and then he followed that up with a 24-6-4 game against Miami. As an offensive talent, LaMelo has an insanely high ceiling because of his unique mix of size, standing at 6'7", and skill. LaMelo can make shots from deep, in the mid-range, or even at the cup. Even though the number 35% from 3 doesn't sound overly impressive, it is when you consider just how tough the shots he takes truly are. Off the bounce, step back J's, and catch and shoot looks, LaMelo can do it all, as he's a flat-out elite shooter. Most of this damage LaMelo can do against an opposing defense happens from beyond the arc, as last season he shot nearly half of his total shot attempts from the perimeter. However, his jump shot is a little wacky, as he has his hands on both sides of the ball and his elbows out. But what makes it work is because of just how confident LaMelo is. He isn't afraid of taking tough shots, which has allowed him to overcome this flaw that he has in his jumper. Now, yes, sometimes LaMelo taking really tough shots isn't going to be good for the flow of an offense, but LaMelo has shown time and time again that he can make these tough looks. When he takes these tough shots, he's often off balance, very far out, or not even facing the basket. But these are all makeable shots for LaMelo Ball. For me, even though I know LaMelo can make these shots, I personally don't think he needs to take as many of these looks now that he has Brandon Miller alongside of him. But we'll get into that a little later in the video. But it's what LaMelo Ball does playmaking-wise that makes him such a unique threat. Last season, LaMelo averaged 8 assists per game with a passer rating in the 91st percentile, which is elite. Even for the modern NBA, LaMelo is a big point guard, standing at 6'7" with a 6'10" wingspan. And even better, he doesn't let this height advantage go to waste, as this extra height allows him greater vision over the floor, unlike a shorter guard. LaMelo often breaks your standard passing rules, as he often leaves his feet to make a pass over the top of a defender to put it on a platter for a teammate. As flashy as LaMelo appears in his highlights, he also has the fundamentals, knowing when to make a bounce pass, an over-the-top pass, or a one-hand pass, which is his go-to, as it allows him to make lightning-fast decisions to beat a defense. The other advantage a one-hand pass has over the standard two-hand pass is how he can make them live off the dribble without telegraphing them to the defense, as they're not able to anticipate where the ball is going before it's already there, giving his teammates more time and space to operate. To put a long story short, this combination of elite playmaking and scoring makes LaMelo Ball one of the most talented young players in the NBA right now. However, there's been one factor that has not only slowed down the growth of LaMelo Ball, but also the entire Hornets franchise, and that has been injuries. Over the last 2 seasons, LaMelo has played in only 58 out of a total 164 games. Someone who had been healthier in that time period was Anthony Edwards, who was taken in the same draft as LaMelo, and he was just able to lead his Wolves to the West Finals. So if LaMelo had been healthier himself over the last 2 seasons, who knows just how much better he would be right now. Injuries to his ankles in particular had been the main issue, but it turns out this could have been prevented. Over the first 4 seasons of his career, LaMelo refused to wear ankle braces because they rubbed on his feet. Hindsight is key, as if you had told LaMelo before his career started that if he doesn't wear ankle braces, he's going to get a lot of ankle injuries, he would have just dealt with the discomfort, but over the off-season, he found a pair that he's happy with. So maybe this means LaMelo can stay healthier this season. Only time will tell. But LaMelo's health isn't the only reason why the Hornets could be much better this season, as the second factor has to do with how he pairs with Brandon Miller. On last season's draft day, everybody knew the Spurs would take Wemby first overall, but it was the conversation for what Charlotte should do with the second overall pick that was a passionate debate. The majority of fans actually wanted the Hornets to take Scoot Henderson over Brandon Miller, but the last good thing Michael Jordan ever did for the Hornets franchise as general manager was select Brandon Miller, and that has appeared to be the right decision. In his first year, Brandon Miller averaged 17 points, 4 rebounds and 2 assists on 44% shooting. Over the offseason, he grew from 6'8" to 6'9", giving the Hornets 2 taller players with guard-like skills. Brandon Miller's game resembles Paul George, and it isn't a coincidence, as PG was his favorite player growing up, and Miller modeled his game after him. Miller is a 6'9" wing who can really shoot the ball, making 37% from beyond the arc and 48% in the mid-range. As a spot-up shooter, Miller checks all the boxes, making 38% from 3 and 53% on 2-point baskets, while also having a quick release, which allows him to get a shot off no matter how tight the defense is playing him. 37% of his shots came in these catch-and-shoot scenarios last season, but when you look at his numbers when he's creating for himself, it gets even better. As on step-back jumpers last season, Brandon Miller shot 55%, which is elite, and he was also able to shoot 41% on pull-up jump shots last season as a rookie, which is even more insane. In only year 1, Brandon Miller was already taking 34% of his shots as pull-up jumpers, which is an impressive number for a rookie. But what makes it even more impressive is how the return of LaMelo might not affect his production at all, and that's because of these numbers. Last season, Miller took 44% of his shots without dribbling the ball once, and his second most common shot was only 3 dribbles. There's no wasted movement with Brandon Miller's game, as he only takes a few dribbles to score, and then he uses his silky smooth jump shot just like Paul George does. In the second preseason game against the Grizzlies, Miller was great, putting up 22 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal while shooting 61% from the floor in just 24 minutes, with 16 of those points coming in just the first quarter. Looking at Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball in isolation is fine, but what will they look like together? In year 1, the Miller Ball Hornets had a record of 7-12 when playing together. Although that isn't a good record, they still have great potential to work out a solid partnership. But that's not the only factor to how good this Hornets team can be next season. The third reason why I'm buying all of the stock in the Charlotte Hornets is because of the impact Miles Bridges can still have on this team. After having a solid start to his career, Miles Bridges had some off-court matters, which I'm not going to get into on this channel, but all you need to know is it kept him out for a full season back in 2023. However, in the 69 games he just played in last season, he was able to put up 21 points, 7.3 rebounds, 3.3 assists, and 0.9 steals, with shooting splits of 46, 34, 82. Bridges has the athleticism to finish plays around the basket, which pairs great with the passing skill of LaMelo Ball. And his 3-point game is better than you would think, as back in the 2021 season, he made 40% from downtown on 4.4 attempts per game, showcasing that ability to take and make shots from deep. However, for a player of his size and athleticism, he should be much better as a defensive player. Because he doesn't lack the physical tools, it's clearly a mental thing with Miles Bridges on the defensive side of the ball, as he ranks in the 4th percentile as a defensive player, with his most like-to-like defender in the NBA being the 6'3" Steph Curry. Not a good comparison for a 6'9" athletic wing. Bridges isn't a good rim protector either, ranking in the 31st percentile for rim defense. He also doesn't get into passing lanes, ranking in the 21st percentile. And despite his quickness at his size, he's not a versatile defender either, ranking in the 32nd percentile in that category. If Miles Bridges can improve his defense and remain a solid floor spacer, there's no doubt that he can still be a core piece to this Hornets team going forward and will help them win more games. The fourth reason why the Hornets will be more competitive this season is because of the supporting cast just being much better. Off the bench, Charlotte have good veterans and young players. So let's take a look at what they can each bring to the table. Starting with the vets, they have the defensive tandem of Josh Green and Grant Williams, who can both provide a 3-and-D presence off the bench, with Green being the guard version and Williams playing the forward. On defense, Grant Williams is a solid rebounder, ranking in the 77th percentile, and he's good at forcing turnovers also, which he does in the 72nd percentile. However, Williams struggles defensively in the paint, as he ranks in the 22nd percentile for rim defense and in the 53rd percentile for block percentage. But his 3-point shot has been very reliable throughout his career, shooting 37% from 3 over his 5 seasons in the NBA, and last season he shot that same number on 4.4 attempts per game, which is actually solid volume. Then if we take a look at Josh Green, he's a similar player but in a smaller body. From the 3-point line, Josh Green has averaged 37% over the course of his 4 seasons in the NBA, but on lower volume than Williams. However, his overall offensive numbers are actually better than Grant Williams, as he ranks in the 61st percentile as an overall offensive player due to his solid passing, portability, and 3-point shooting rate. On defense, Josh Green ranks in the 99th percentile for forced turnovers, which is elite, while he also ranks higher for defending without fouling, which he does in the 64th percentile. 2 qualities that this Hornets team needs off the bench, or in the starting lineup. Then the other Hornets veteran players include Seth Curry, known as one of the best 3-point shooters in basketball, as he's going to bring that spark off the bench. They also have Serbian guard Micic, who had a strong season with the Oklahoma City Thunder, part of the Serbian national team that nearly beat Team USA in the Olympics. Then lastly, we have Cody Martin, who's a versatile player off the bench, providing a little bit of everything, which is always a positive. But it's the young core of players that's going to be the most important for Charlotte's future. This young core features Tijan Salan, Nick Smith Jr., Nick Richards, Mark Williams, and Trey Mann. Salan is their most recent rookie, who in very limited minutes in the NBA so far has kind of looked like a Nicholas Batum type player, as he's somebody who can already space the floor and one day potentially provide good defense at the wing spot. Then we look at Nick Smith Jr., who hasn't seen much time on the floor yet, but his upside is clear. He could be a great off the bench scorer. Nick Richards and Mark Williams are both young promising bigs that could help the Hornets to a playoff spot. Both of these bigs play similar roles on the team, however Mark Williams has been a standout, as he ranks in the 78th percentile as an offensive player, as he gets to the free throw line at a good rate and takes high percentage looks. But an area of his game that he needs to improve upon is his rebounding, as he only ranks in the 41st percentile for defensive rebounding and the 43rd percentile for offensive rebounding. But considering the fact that he's only 22 years of age, he's already providing solid numbers at the starting center spot and fits in with a timeline for the rest of this Hornets squad. And then when you also look at the new management and a new coach, he could still make another leap just yet. At the trade deadline last season, the Hornets moved on from Gordon Hayward, who has since retired, and they were able to acquire Trey Mann and Micic, which has proven to be a huge win. So far in the preseason, Trey Mann in particular has been very good, as in the game versus the Grizzlies, he was able to put up 19 points on 61% shooting in just 22 minutes of action. Trey Mann is a solid 3-point shooter and has the handles to get his shots whenever he wants, making him a perfect offensive spark plug to come off the bench, and yet another great young talent the Hornets can build the roster around. But with all this said, how will the Charlotte Hornets get into the playoffs? If we look at last season's standings, the Hornets finished as the 13th seed in the Eastern Conference, which was largely due to the injury of LaMelo Ball. The top 8 seeds will likely remain the same, however, that 9 and 10 spot is most definitely up for grabs, as we've got Chicago, Atlanta, Brooklyn, and Washington all looking to get higher draft picks, meaning they're going to be worse. So that means the battle for the 9 and 10 seeds will likely be between Detroit, Toronto, and the Hornets. For me, the Detroit Pistons have looked very good in the preseason, and I'd probably have them clinching one of these spots, which leaves the last spot to be between Charlotte and Toronto. I feel like this young Raptors team with Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, and RJ Barrett are great. However, I still like this Hornets team a little bit more, as I expect them to be better throughout the regular season, as they have the talent to get the wins on the board, which will see them clenching one of these final spots. And from there, if an injury goes the Hornets' way, or even if they have a hot shooting night, it only takes one game in the play-in tournament to get through to the postseason, which is well within the Hornets' grasp. But that's just my take. How good do you think this Charlotte Hornets team is, and do you think they could make the postseason? Let me know in the comments below.